mynews.studio.
Ships used to cross the open ocean with almost no restrictions. But now a global treaty is changing that. The big question is, can we really start protecting the last wild parts of the sea?
Today is November 22nd, 2025. The High Seas Treaty is about to come into force in January 2026. At first, 60 countries had ratified it, but now 75 say they're on board. Why is this such a significant development?
This treaty covers half of Earth's surface, the huge stretches of ocean that don't belong to any one country. For a long time, these waters were barely regulated. Now, for the first time, there's a binding legal tool to create marine protected areas, control resource extraction, and require environmental impact studies before large-scale projects can go ahead. It's a big change.
When you say legally binding, what does that actually mean here? I mean, these are international waters. Who actually makes sure the rules are followed?
That's a good point. The main structure is the Conference of the Parties, or COP. They'll set management plans, define resource use rules, and oversee compliance. But there's no international police for the oceans. Instead, enforcement depends on each country monitoring its own vessels, sharing data through what's called a clearinghouse mechanism, and holding each other accountable.
So, if a country has ratified the treaty, it's in charge of all the ships flying its flag. But what about the countries that haven't signed on, like China or Japan? Their fishing fleets are huge.
That's where things get tricky. While 75 countries have ratified, major fishing nations like China and Japan haven't yet. The treaty can't force them to comply, but it does create diplomatic and economic pressure. Even before they officially join, these countries can still take part in scientific discussions and conservation work, so there are ways to stay involved.
Has this kind of pressure, sort of peer pressure, actually worked before in global agreements?
Yes, there's precedent. The Paris Agreement on climate change uses a similar approach. Even countries that don't ratify often join in, especially when trade or scientific partnerships are involved. And with 142 signatories already, there's a strong push for others to come on board.
I'm wondering about developing countries. Managing marine areas and enforcing new rules can be costly. How will they be able to participate?
The treaty addresses this by setting up a voluntary trust fund, plus a special fund for building capacity and sharing technology. The COP oversees these funds, making sure developing countries can access training, infrastructure, and scientific tools. This isn't just about conservation, it's also about making sure everyone benefits from research and new discoveries.
What about marine genetic resources? Say someone discovers a new compound in the deep sea that could be used in medicine. Are there rules for sharing those benefits?
Yes, the treaty covers that too. Any benefits from marine genetic resources, like pharmaceuticals or new biotechnologies, need to be shared fairly, especially with developing nations. The aim is to avoid a situation where only a few countries profit from these discoveries.
The treaty just received the Earthshot prize. Do awards like that actually help with implementation, or are they mostly just for show?
It's a bit of both. The Earthshot prize brings more attention to the treaty, which can make it harder for countries to ignore. But real progress will depend on monitoring, transparent reporting, and ongoing diplomacy, especially to involve those major fishing nations.
So, to sum up, we now have a global, legally binding system for high seas protection, but it only works if countries cooperate and stay transparent. Non-signatories still have ways to get involved, and there's new funding to help developing countries participate.
That's right. It's a big step forward for governing the oceans. Finally, half of our planet's surface will have some oversight. But now the real challenge is in the details and building trust among countries.
That wraps up today's look at the High Seas Treaty. From shipping to science, it's a new chapter for ocean protection. How it unfolds remains to be seen.
Thanks for tuning in. The world's oceans are a bit more protected now, but there's a long journey ahead.
Thank you for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. You can try it now for free.